Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We're back, baby.
What do you mean we're back? Where'd we go?
Well, we had Labor Day.
Oh, yeah. And I feel like, did I go somewhere? I feel like I haven't done this in 6 years.
I know. It was a weird end of the summer.
And yet,
we're getting out of it.
Every day I do this,
back.
I feel like I've never done anything else in my life but this show.
Well, I'm going to be in Portland on Friday.
That means I have to vacuum?
No.
Okay, good.
It
Live.
does mean you need to get a second chair.
Live from Tariq Fancy's anti-ESG diary. Did you know he kept an anti-ESG diary?
Is that like Lord Voldemort's diary?
Yeah, I've seen it. It's leather bound. It has that little clasp.
That's what I mean. Not is he Lord Voldemort, but is the diary like that? Like
it's the ESG industry's only weekly woke data podcast featuring analyst Hull Matt Moscardi. Come on, audience, give it to him. Oh, we can't.
Yeah,
can't hear the audience.
The audience is well. They have to.
They have to
wait for the music to fade out before they actually come and do anything.
In today's sweaty September ESG sack called September 6th, 2023, I do feel that way though today.
A sack of ESG.
I don't know how it's going in your part of New England, but my part is unpleasant. We have...
Oh, it's hot, yeah.
We have an epic Australian glass cliff alert. All the Musk headlines you were trying to avoid, you're welcome. And
no. Are we doing that today?
We have the ESG idiot of the day. I'm excited for that. ESG idiot of the day. And the great Paul Hodgson from SKH, who I'm getting a late report, is not the ESG idiot of the day.
No, he is not. They are. SKH
Don't be confused.
Your ESG data solutions provider.
Our show today is being sponsored by SKH.
Yeah.
Your ESG data solutions provider. You just said that.
I know.
But I have to.
I'm front running your sponsorship.
I'm contractually obligated to say that. Paul will jump on later to talk about, according to him, he's talking about women on boards and women in management.
That's a lot of women.
It's very broad in general.
No, there's a lot of things you could talk about, but let's get right to it because you have a big story.
Oh God.
As in a lot of words. Not that anyone cares.
Ladies and gentlemen, I got into the rabbit hole of Qantas Airlines this morning. That's what I did. That's how I spent my morning. All right, this is
not sure if I like that.
This is an incredible glass cliff alert out of Australia. Vanessa Hudson is now the Qantas CEO. Here's the headline. She faces big challenges in the years ahead. Matt, I think the best way to tell this story is just with a hodgepodge of all the horrible headlines going on at Qantas. I don't know how much you know about Qantas.
Headlines, well, I know they're an airline, and I know they're in Australia. Okay. But the headline says in the years ahead. That assumes she's going to last the years.
Well, okay. Well, the reason why I'm saying in the years ahead is because of the shit show left by departing CEO Alan Joyce, who is stepping down 2 months early, just weeks before a planned formal farewell. So he couldn't even get to the formal farewell at the AGM in November. That's how bad things are. So I'm just going to run down a bunch of random things going on at Qantas. First is they announced record profits, right, a few weeks ago. Yeah. But then there was this bogus ticket scandal that dropped out of nowhere. According to the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, they're aiming for a record $600 million penalty. They're accusing Qantas of allegedly advertising tickets for thousands of canceled flights and failing to tell customers about ticket cancellation. So in effect, Qantas has been selling its customers canceled flight tickets.
Ooh. Well, that's one way to get some profit.
For more than 8,000 flights.
8,000 flights is a lot of flights.
Yeah. Other headlines. Qantas reputation is in the bin. What can new CEO Vanessa Hudson do to retrieve it? So according to one article here, Qantas issues a groveling apology to Australians after Nightmare Week. But here's the groveling apology. We openly acknowledge that our service standards fell well short and we sincerely apologize. Is that groveling?
Oh, wow. That's like hands and knees. That's outside your door begging you to come back.
Other headlines. Alan Joyce leaves Qantas. Outrage over $24 million CEO's golden handshake as he retires to enjoy a penthouse with views of the Sydney Opera House.
Whoops.
So they're rubbing it in a little bit there that he's already rich.
I mean, isn't that what they did with the SVB bank,
Yes.
which failed spectacularly?
Yeah.
And then they said like the CEO is currently at Maui, like enjoying himself.
This article gets really into this. How he just sold a $20 million home, and they downsized to a $9 million penthouse, and they also have a $5 million beach house down the road. So they're really laying into him on this one. Other headlines: everybody has a Qantas horror story. So there's been a run of negative headlines. Qantas has been the subject of scandal under Joyce's leadership and was found to have violated the Fair Work Act. So the Australia's federal court ruled that the airline had recently illegally fired 1,700 employees in the process of outsourcing 2,000 ground handling jobs. So during the pandemic, they dealt with their human resources, with their labor, by outsourcing 2,000 jobs. So they illegally fired 2,000 unionized workers. What else is going on? Qantas board under fire over horror run, they're saying. This is the Qantas board led by veteran chair Richard Goyder, okay? Sorry. According to reports, the board was not expecting Joyce to retire early. It was also unaware of the severity of the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission's case against the airline group.
Really? They're unaware?
Goyder emphasized that it was not the board's decision for Joyce to leave early. So you have to wonder, what is the board really doing? Goyder is not up for re-election. This is the chair at November's annual election because he is re-elected on 3-year terms. So this is why we rail against the stupid classified boards, right? So shareholders, according to Australian law, he actually has the option to put himself up for re-election, but is not expected to do so.
Oh, well, he's getting out while the getting's good. How many airlines are there in Australia?
At least 3? One. At least one that I know of.
I mean, there's Qantas, but everyone's got a Qantas horror story. Their service shuts down and it's terrible. They're selling canceled flight tickets, and they have that many flights. Aren't they the largest airline by a wide margin, right? Like there aren't many other. I think there's 3 or 4 other big enough.
But you know how it is when
that you would care about
when you book a trip. I mean, there's not really. You can pretend you're angry against Delta and American and you're never going to fly them again, but you don't really have much choice, right? I mean,
well, in the U.S. we have Southwest, JetBlue, American, Delta, Virgin.
Yeah, but only certain routes are supplied by certain carriers, though. So it's you don't really have a lot of choice.
But I like my fake options. I don't think Australia even has many fake options.
The good news for
Qantas.
Australian travelers is that Qantas also owns a budget airline in Australia called Jetstar. So they own the competitive.
They own one of their competitors.
Yeah. So here's back to the Glass Cliff stuff. Oh, before I get to that, the chair of Qantas, again, Richard Goyder. He is also the chair of Woodside Energy Group. He is also the chair of Australian football, the Australian Football League Commission. He is also the chair of the West Australian Symphony Orchestra, and he is also the chair of Channel 7 Telethon Trust. So this guy's a busy guy.
That's a lot of
chairs. Chairing going on. So back to the Glass Cliff. Vanessa Hudson taking over? She was the CFO of Qantas. Also, so Alan Joyce will be leaving the board. Director Michael Lestrange will be leaving the board. They just appointed a new board member 2 weeks ago, Dr. Heather Smith. She has a PhD in economics.
Heather.
So as of the AGM in November, this Qantas will be led by a female CEO, and a majority, that'll be 5 out of 8 directors, will be women. So this is a great Glass Cliff moment for Qantas.
Yeah, let's just summarize real briefly.
Yeah.
Qantas sucks ass after everybody got rich, and then all the men leave Qantas at literally the same time.
Except for the chair.
I mean, the chair's not putting himself up for re-election, though, right?
Well, he doesn't have to. He's on he got re-elected last year on a 3-year term, so.
So he's just opting to stick around.
He's opting
for
to
a
stick
little
around.
while?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
according to our data. Alan Joyce controlled 28% of the board influence. So that's a lot of influence that's going to be spread around now.
It's a nice void.
Yeah.
It's a nice glass cliff void.
Before I leave to the next story, I wanted to end on this, the inevitable headline that comes from any disaster. Although I want to reiterate before I get to this, is that there has been a remarkable run of epic failures, that, including apologies, that have led to appointing a woman as the CEO.
Groveling apologies. Yeah.
Like, we're out really on an epic glass cliff CEO ceiling run, right? I mean, this is really incredible. I just
really
wanted to point that out. All right. Inevitably, in all these stories, we get to this headline: Qantas's woke capitalism is failing.
Is that coming out of a Rupert Murdoch rag?
This is from the Sydney. I don't know. What is this from? This is from the Spectator. I don't know what that is. It's probably Rupert Murdoch. Because Matt and I were talking about something off air. There was an anti-woke story, upset about Dove because they're putting up their pictures of women with like a few hair follicles on their armpits, just a couple of hairs sticking out. And this guy is angry. And this is from a website called Outkick, and I looked at who owned Outkick, and yes, it's Rupert Murdoch. It's owned by Fox Corporation.
I mean, it's literally, the Dove one is moderately hysterical that anyone cares about that. It is like, it's about armpits, and the article makes it sound like that there are these like monstrous hairy armpits all over the place that Dove is shoving in your face. It's like a couple of women with arguably totally normal armpits that are visible.
Whatever normal means, yeah.
I mean, like, they're just it's such a nothing burger, and they're like, Dove's woke, Unilever's woke, Ben and Jerry's is woke.
Thank you.
And somehow
Rupert
they
Murdoch
got to Ben and Jerry's too.
So in this article, Qantas's woke capitalism is failing. I guess mostly an issue here is that Australia is being asked to vote on a referendum in October. It's called the Indigenous Voice referendum, asking voters whether they support altering the Constitution to set up an Indigenous committee to advise the federal parliament. Now this is just a committee, Indigenous committee, that only in an advisory capacity, right? But I guess this referendum is really splitting the country. This is like their version of Brexit, because both sides are kind of angry at each other. It's the polling is kind of right down the middle right now. The issue at hand is that Qantas declared its support for this. And this is why they're saying that Qantas's woke capitalism is failing. And I wanted to just point out the playbook of the anti-ESG and the anti-woke. A quote from this article says, the central conundrum of woke capitalism is its unprofitability. Okay? That's the central tenet of this guy's argument. Matt, 2 weeks ago, headlines: Qantas delivers record $2.5 billion profit. So he writes this 2 weeks after Qantas delivered record profits. I mean, this is the state of the anti-ESG movement right now. And can I just say, before you get to that, just 2 sentences after he says this, this is just like the playbook of Vivek Ramaswamy. He jumps to this quote: "Not to mention, there is zero evidence that woke diversity training programs improve productivity." I don't even know how he got there, but he went from woke capitalism equals unprofitability to diversity training programs suck. I don't even know what that means.
You're right that this is the playbook.
This is the playbook.
It's say a thing.
The thing being that woke politics is not profitable.
Right.
And then blame it on black people and
then say
women.
something about women, black people, or gays.
Right.
Like, those two things have literally not a thing to do with each other. But it's like, say something is woke, then say women, brown people, gays are to blame. That's it. And that's the whole playbook.
And it must be a paint by numbers playbook, because this was 2 weeks after Qantas announced record profits. This guy still went ahead with his article.
There's another piece to this playbook that we're not talking about,
go ahead.
which is, say, political discrimination somewhere too. Say that, like, conservative voices have been shut down by this company, because I'm seeing that over and over and over again. Like Vivek wants to shut down the FBI. Why? Because it's ideologically like discriminating against conservatives.
Well, and you're right, because
which is funny because it was started by a guy who was chasing hippies and leftists, right? Like
and shooting at Martin Luther King
and shooting them, right?
Yeah.
Like, so shouldn't the lefties want to shut it down more than Vivek?
Yeah. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, that's probably enough of that. Do we have more terrible things that are going to make me fear?
I just wanted to run down a bunch of Elon Musk headlines. Sorry.
Oh, come on.
I never know what to do with them. I don't know how much. I guess like me, I bet our listening audience kind of avoids them. But I think it's worthwhile to hear them all. This is like within the last few days. This is just to hear them all at once. I think is a worthwhile corporate governance exercise, and it begs you, to anyone listening who has any control over proxy voting, that you vote for anyone on the Tesla board. You're crazy. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know.
That's insane. And
right?
let's just in order to make this something. I'm going to play
this.
I'm going to play Nuggets theme music underneath you. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
So, because otherwise, I'm going to hate every second.
Yeah, I'll try to go quickly. Let's
just do the headlines.
Musk blames Anti-Defamation League for X's poor ad sales, threatens lawsuit. The head of Anti-Defamation League says Elon Musk's behavior is dangerous and deeply irresponsible. Musk's epic antic Labor Day weekend against the Jews. Elon Musk borrowed $1 billion from SpaceX around the same time he bought Twitter. That's right, he borrowed $1 billion from SpaceX. A Tesla bumper sticker says that I bought this before we knew Elon was crazy. Elon Musk says progressive LA school has turned daughter into communist who thinks anyone rich is evil. Elon Musk says his daughter, who ditched his last name, doesn't want to spend time with me.
Oh, well, he's evil and ever because he's rich.
Elon Musk's erosion of safety standards at X is helping Putin spread Russian propaganda, study finds. Elon Musk has unprecedented influence that spans multiple industries, and our fate is in his hands. Elon Musk's X wants to collect users' biometric data and education history.
Nah. This is why I quit it.
An upcoming privacy policy update shows federal officials claim Elon Musk is treated like an unelected official due to growing influence in Ukraine war policy. Elon Musk doubted ex-Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal because he was too nice. Elon Musk's X is hit with 2,200 arbitration claims from former Twitter employees. Tesla investors awarded $12,000 each for Elon Musk's funding-secured tweet, falsely indicating he would take the company private. Elon Musk's tweet is cited in a new DOJ lawsuit accusing SpaceX of routine discrimination against refugees. And finally, Elon Musk's Tesla almost ran a red light during a full what is it called? FSD demo. What is that?
Isn't it full self-driving?
Full self-driving demo. A video appeared to show Musk taking the wheel after the software misread a traffic signal.
Yikes. That was really depressing and horrible. And it didn't even say the one that Musk just zoomed AI. He just did the Zoom like update where he said all users' tweets will now be subject to training his AI company. His AI.
Yeah, I'm just reading the headlines. I don't want to talk about Elon Musk. All I'm going to say is to anyone advising voting that you would support anyone on that board.
One share, one vote, people.
Yeah.
You actually have a say at this company. At least Tesla. You don't have a say anywhere else.
And I was talking to the Money Whisperer yesterday. You can't tell me. I mean, Tesla had such incredible market control, electric vehicle market control, really had all the positive headlines. You can't tell me that the rest of the world hasn't quickly caught up because you have this guy in power who has 17 other CEO jobs.
100%.
Right?
Like if you see sales numbers going up at any other EV product, it's because they just don't want to buy Elon Musk's products anymore.
Yeah, this is a corporate governance issue. But beyond that, I mean, because what we've seen in the tech space is that if you get early control of the market, you generally keep it, right?
And this is the
unless you're Tesla.
ESG. This is the ESG thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like your CEO is insane
Yeah.
and hard to deal with,
And has 10 other
no one
CEO
likes
jobs.
him, right? Like he has 10 jobs. He now hates his daughter because she's a communist. She's a trans communist or whatever. He's anti-woke. Because of all that stuff, I will take a lesser quality product if I had to, just to avoid you. That's called capitalism. That's
Yeah.
a market force. That's why people use ESG data. Speaking of ESG data, let's do our ESG. I don't know if idiot might be harsh.
Idiot of the day?
Idiot of the week.
Yeah. She might be.
It might be harsh, but because she does not seem like an idiot, but she does seem like an opportunist. So but here's a headline I saw.
Could be the same thing.
Has ESG gone off the rails? This is
I like the question. I
wealthmanagement.com.
like that kind of headline writing. The question, the Tucker Carlson, the question.
It is the Tucker
Don't
Carlson
declare
question.
something, just insinuate it.
I'm not going to say it, but I am going to imply it, and you're going to read it as a result. It's written by Sharon Bentley Hamlin. She is a director at Aubrey Capital Management, based in the UK and in Scotland. Or London and Edinburgh, I think, are their offices. Just for background on who Sharon is.
Yeah.
Sharon was an opera singer in the 1980s.
Well, we all were, so that's fine.
Obviously.
Yeah.
She then worked at Credit Commercial de France as an M&A analyst.
Great accent, yeah.
She joined Walter Scott Partners as an analyst doing EU stock selection,
Whatever that
European
means, yeah.
stocks. And she won a bunch of women awards. She won some woman stuff.
Okay,
Like,
now you're creeping me out. I don't know what you're getting at.
I'm just saying, she lists 5 things I've never heard of that were
Okay.
like top female
Got it.
alpha award.
So you're
that kind of
making
thing.
this is part of you're making the case of whether or not she's an idiot. So, I see what you've done. You've changed the story that it's not ESG idiot of the day. It's ESG idiot of the day ?
Yes, it's a question
Is she
mark.
the ESG idiot of the day?
It's
I got
right.
it. Okay.
I'm implying I didn't say it though.
You didn't say.
All right, here's some quotes from the article.
Yeah.
All right. Here's her air quote ESG quote, which is, I am becoming increasingly queasy about the direction of so-called ESG.
Wow. I mean, there's already a lot to unpack there. First question is, when did she start becoming queasy? Because she's increasingly queasy, and why? Like what caused the initial queasiness?
I like the so-called ESG.
Yeah,
Like,
was it the tuna fish smeared all over the executive
ESG.
compensation plan? Like what made her queasy? I want to know.
I mean, that would make anyone queasy if we're honest, right? Like that would put me
increasingly,
over the edge.
and then beyond that, what does she mean? So-called ESG. What does that even mean?
So-called?
It is called ESG.
It's called ESG.
Yeah, well, I don't know what that
who
means.
so called it that, right?
Yeah.
Like, so already
Okay,
off
already
the
I'm
bat, I like
confused.
this. All right, and then there's the "we do women good, but they're so hard to find" play.
Oh, no.
In the article, quote, and this is a longer quote, so sit with me.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Quote, our firm strongly supports getting more women to consider investment management as a career, and we have a good gender balance in our company. But there are several well-run businesses in our investment universe that are downgraded in the sustainability ratings because women do not yet comprise 1/3 of their boards.
Okay.
In principle, it would be great to have this level of female participation.
Yeah, she's for it.
Assuming women can be found who are qualified and competent for board roles.
Okay. That's a big assumption.
But in our now there's the but. There's the period. Now the but.
Assuming.
But in our experience of speaking with senior management in a wide range of industries, this is not so easy to achieve.
Oh God.
There simply are not enough qualified women coming forward for such roles, or indeed entering certain industries and progressing to this level.
I mean, I there's so much to say here. I don't even know. My head is spinning. I mean, but the one that I'm stuck on is the qualified women. They're not coming forward. So
No.
we're not going to go look.
don't.
We're not going to recruit people. We're not right. We're not going to create a pipeline. We're going to wait for them to come forward.
But I just
weird.
like that juxtaposition. Assuming there are qualified women, it would be great to have them.
Well, we know,
but there are no qualified women.
Which-
like that thing is fantastic.
Yeah.
As if
Yeah.
there aren't women who are qualified to do any, like the men who have those roles are qualified.
Can I just say
that's the assumption?
Yeah, of course. Can I just say that, and this is another one part of the anti-ESG playbook. They always, they refer to, these, like she's saying, in our experience of speaking with senior management in a wide range of industries. Why not quote them in the article? Why don't we get people on record at least to say like there are no competent women around? Yeah.
Why not Charlie Sharpfit is what you're saying? Like say that we can't find them.
Yeah.
But most of them are going to be men, right? Like the senior management that they're talking to, and they're saying to the men, why aren't there any women? And they're like, we can't find any. And then they like write that down and then put it in an article, like to say that there aren't any. What are you, an executive search firm?
This is sad. I feel sad for her. I don't know if she's an idiot. I just feel sad here now.
Well, it's idiot question mark.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't. So here's what I wanted to ask you. Assuming women can be found who are qualified and competent for board roles,
tough assumption.
In your experience, Damian Rollis, looking at women on boards, are women competent?
Well, if you take her logic, right, which is that since the man's already there, so he must be competent and qualified, right? Then the women must be too if they're there. So I guess the answer is yes, they're competent. Right?
I like your logic.
Right?
I also like the fact that you did a paper that showed that women have higher educations than men.
I feel like that's old. I feel like that's old news at this point.
It's old news, but it's like maybe
that they're more qualified
Sharon
and more
Aubrey
educated.
Needs to read it.
Yeah, this is a sad moment for Sharon. I don't know if she knows what she put her name on.
And then she wraps this article up with a non sequitur into environmental issues and the ideology discrimination play, which is what I mentioned earlier as increasingly part of the playbook. Quote, you get into situations, as in the UK, where basic services like banking can be denied to individuals, small businesses, and organizations whose views may not concur with a company's political or sociological stance. Well, I have a question about what a sociological stance is. What's a sociological stance?
Sociological stance is like that's a good question.
Is that like I'm taking a stance
against bedwetters or something? I don't know.
Obesity trends?
I don't really know what that one is.
What is that? But let's break these down one at a time, shall we? Because what else do we have to do in the next 5 minutes?
Yeah, go ahead.
As to Aubrey Capital Investment Management, Aubrey Capital Management's ESG. All right. So if she first says so-called ESG, here's what their ESG is, which I assume must be real ESG next to so-called ESG, right? Because they're doing ESG, and now today's so-called ESG.
So
they must have the real one.
So it started as you're saying it started as ESG, but it's kind of transformed into a so-called ESG because of all the. I guess the unqualified and incompetent women who've taken over I don't even know what's changed.
I mean, whatever the ESG is now, here's all I'm going to take it as. The ESG now is not real ESG. It's so-called ESG.
Yeah.
The ESG that we're doing is real ESG.
Right.
So here's the ESG that they're doing.
Yeah.
Aubrey has built ESG into their practice since 2006. This is all from their website.
Okay.
You can look this up. They use the UN Global Compact as the basis for their research and analysis.
Okay.
That is all.
Oh.
That's all the information they give you.
So
really.
maybe that's what she means by so-called ESG, because there's really not much going on.
No, this is the real ESG.
Oh, okay.
So-called ESG is the other stuff. They do their own in-house research. They have no context. They only research their portfolio companies' ESG stuff, and they only do it around the UN Global Compact. So all the other stuff, but this DEI stuff, I imagine, is the so-called ESG. They claim they have internal know-how to create ESG scores.
Okay.
I looked at every bio on their website, and there are more than 30 people on their website.
I like internal know-how, yeah.
Their ESG experience includes analyst Clizzy Lidman.
Yep.
She had a
Clizza,
ESG investing certificate. She's a junior analyst.
ESG investing certificate, I like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And Camilla Huang, who got a CFA course in ESG.
Okay.
She's also a junior analyst. In fact, the only two women on their investment team outside of Sharon are the ones who have ESG experience, and they're both junior.
Okay.
So ESG know-how is two junior women doing the ESG.
Well, do you notice that there is a correlation to all this? Like the reason why these movements are now called like so-called ESG, it correlates with the rise of women and people of color like having a voice in our society or in any industry, right? Like when they got to the table and started having some kind of authority, that's when the structure, that's when we started questioning the validity of everything, question the validity of the FBI, question the validity of the military, question the validity of ESG. It's all become shit now, right? Because for the first time in history, really, we've let women and people of color to the actual, exactly, into the actual power structures. And that's when we've noticed that it's time to drain the swamp, right? Because that's when ESG became so-called ESG, I think is what she's trying to say.
Now it's time to shut down the FBI.
Shut it all down. Shut it all down.
Yeah,
right? Because
exactly.
That's what the anti-woke and anti-ESG is really afraid of, is we've given the wrong people the voice but
not at Aubrey, okay?
No, not at Aubrey.
Look, here's what I want to say about Aubrey,
okay,
which transitions to the next part, which is the "we do women good" part. This is the quote she said.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "We have a good gender balance in our company."
Does she define? Right? She define good,
she
like relative to what?
She's basically saying that as a preference to getting gender balance is possible. But there aren't qualified people at some of these companies
but again,
that we can get.
Okay? What are we talking about? Like good compared to the actual the demographics of like population of who actually graduates from higher education, like, or are we talking about?
Let me tell you what good is
relative to the good boys. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I'll just tell you what good is. Good is 22 men out of 31 employees on the website.
Okay, so 9 women. That seems like a big achievement over there in the UK.
Massive.
Yeah.
Good is 100% male portfolio managers.
Oh.
All the portfolio managers are men.
Oh.
Good is 88% of the investment managers are men.
Yeah.
Good is 80% of the investment team is men. Mm-hmm. And the women are the 2 junior analysts who are ESG analysts that I mentioned.
Yeah, who will never be promoted.
63% of the operations team is men.
And that usually correlates, right? We just talked about a paper a few weeks ago where the operations tend to be more women at these investment firms, but the leadership positions are men all the way.
Are all men.
Yeah.
But the ops team, like the head of HR,
exactly.
Women, right? 71% male sales team, 78% male board. They can't even do 30% women on the board in their own company.
Yeah.
Right? Like they can't even do it.
And even at the biggest companies even at the biggest companies in the UK, we're well over 30% women on the board. So this is like,
I mean, she might be right, but she goes on. Mm-hmm. So she's saying that there's not qualified women for boards of the companies in which they invest, and that's aggravating because sustainability raters are debiting their companies, right? Yeah. But Sharon was on a podcast, and yes, I listened to the podcast.
Oh, look at you.
In which she talked about women in investment management. Mm-hmm. And she said in the podcast that the aggressive culture often keeps women out. Mm-hmm. Maternity leave mean men get advanced ahead of them.
Sure.
Right?
Of course.
And job satisfaction, work-life balance matter more to women.
Right.
And they get paid less, is the implication here.
Of course.
Like, if you got paid less all the time, wouldn't you care more about like getting out of work earlier?
Yeah, if I was getting paid less than my colleagues for the same job, the same qualifications,
are staying until
like
9 p.m. every single night.
Of course.
Why would I stay here until 9 p.m. when I know I'm getting 80 cents to their dollar, right? Like I'm not doing that. And then women, when they do get added to a mixed team, she called it generally gender washing.
What does that mean?
Because the women get no responsibility. They just get added to the team.
Wait, she's saying all this?
Sort of like adding 2 junior women analysts to the investment teams and having them be the only women on the investment team, right?
Yeah.
Sort of like that.
This is confusing. This is like a woman who sounds like she's very much behind all the tenets of ESG, right? I mean, she seems for it all.
not only does she seem for it all,
Yeah.
but she seems to be living all of the problems in her own firm and then saying that, well, we can't have 30% women on boards because of all these things? Like,
All the barriers,
aren't
yeah.
you then supposed to, as an investor, say those things are not good excuses?
Yeah.
The women are qualified to have the job.
No.
You are socially keeping them out of the jobs.
No, Matt, because you're forgetting that she was suggesting that women aren't competent enough to have the
Oh,
jobs. Right,
well,
so the
no
article
point
would
did that-
suggest that despite the barriers, that the barriers don't matter because there are no competent women in the first place, right?
Well, you'd be wrong about that because in the podcast, she says there are no differences between men and women doing their job at research. There are no
Right.
competency issues. What she does say is confidence is an issue because these are situations in which the loudest voice tends to
Sure,
win,
yeah.
and so women lack the confidence
Yeah.
in those issues. Networking is an issue
course.
because women don't do, and this is her thing, drinking culture.
Yeah.
Probably because of all the fucking groping that happens
Well,
when you go out drinking,
and
right?
and probably because they're going home to their families and the men don't feel the need to do that. They don't feel the
So
urge.
what are we talking about here?
I have
She
no
says
idea. I
there's
have no
not a
idea.
confidence issue.
I can't deal with this. I
Your
don't.
own firm
This is
doesn't
confusing.
even like. This is the most confusing thing.
Matt, I think
That's-
someone wrote
this is
that
why
article
there's
for
a question
her.
mark.
I think
This
someone
is a
wrote that
question-
article for her. She didn't know what she was putting her name on. This is sad. I find this to be very sad. Can
Yeah,
we
so the
rename
point-
this the sad ESG industry professional of the day?
No, it's the ESG question mark.
But to
headline of
question
the
the
day.
competence of women, I mean, that is just outrageous.
Look, the point is here, and let's go out on this because otherwise
It's
we're going
too
to
much.
be doing this for like 7 years.
Yeah.
The point here is if you give everyone on the internet a pen, you can flood it with hot takes about wokeness and ESG and clickbaity titles with question marks. Tariq
Sharon.
can say everyone is
Why
underqualified in ESG. Vivek can say ESG is destroying capitalism. And I can go back and forth. I was on a LinkedIn back and forth
Yeah.
with a guy who was saying that ESG is predatory delay of addressing the climate issue.
Predatory.
ESG is to blame for the delay in climate, like dealing with the climate. ESG is the problem.
Well, just like Vivek said, didn't he blame that the policy fighting climate change has caused more death than climate change itself? Is the same
That's
kind of
right.
rationale?
And just to put a point on it, zero data. Sorry, Sharon, there is no data in your entire article. You cited zero numbers. You cited
Zero
only
sources,
anecdotal
zero
evidence.
quotes.
And when I looked at your own firm and actually counted things and did like the numbers and did some research, your own quote about your own firm's gender balance in our company is good is demonstrably false.
Yeah.
Right? Stop penning bullshit. That's my point.
It was bad. That was sad. That was a sad article.
That's all I got. for that.
Again, I can understand her questioning the qualifications if they're not. Oh, yeah.
We're not done
No, we are done.
because we have Paul.
Oh, okay.
Paul's got to come in. Paul's going to talk about women.
Just so the
he
audience
there?
knows that the reason why we've been filibustering so long and making the show go on is we're waiting for Paul to park and to get into the studio.
Yeah, honestly,
We don't
it's
usually
like
talk this long.
He's got to validate his parking afterwards. All right, here's Paul from SKH talking about some stuff about women, more women stuff. We do good gender balance. Paul, take it away.
Hello there. Paul Hodgson here with the S-Gauge Statistic of the Week, or rather statistics, because there's going to be several, as there always are, in fact. So, with the Supreme Court's decision on affirmative action, as well as the ESG backlash that's going on due to Republican concerns about the subject, a lot of corporates have pulled back on their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, or at least have sent them underground. So I'm going to spend the next few weeks looking at what has been achieved over the last few years in terms of diversity, both gender diversity and racial and ethnic diversity, both for pay levels, for the proportion of women in management, women on boards, etc., those kinds of things. So we're going to look at those and see whether it's appropriate really for corporates to actually pull back on these programs because they've achieved what they wanted. I think we all know the answer to that. But anyway, so let's start with women on board. Okay, so we're looking at the Russell 3000 over the period from 2021 to 2023. So we've seen a steady increase, both the average and the median of women on board from 24.3% in 2021 to 31.1% in 2023. That's the average, and the median's gone up from 25% in 2021 to 30% in 2023. Now, just to make a comparison between the total sample here, the Russell 3000, and the S&P 500, I think we'll find that progress has been higher in the S&P 500 than it is, faster rather than it is, has been rather in the Russell 3000. So yeah, so we're just looking at 2023 at the moment, and the average for the Russell 3000 is 31.1%, as we've said, with a median of 30%. But the average in the S&P 500 is slightly higher, not a great deal, but slightly higher. So the average is 33.1% in the S&P 500 and 33% median in the S&P 500. So a couple, between 2 and 3 percentage points higher. So we're talking about a third of boards are made up of women directors at the moment, which is a proportion of the population that is slightly higher than 50%. So clearly pulling back on diversity, equity, and inclusion, DE&I, programs is not appropriate at the moment. So let's look at women in management. This is a more difficult statistic to collect and a more difficult statistic to analyze because there's less information about women in management than there is about board directors. Women in management is slightly more difficult to get data on that. But anyway, S-Gage is good at this stuff, so here we are. So we're talking about a fairly similar proportions for the Russell 3000 and the S&P 500 in 2023 for women in management, as we saw women in boards. It's actually slightly lower for women in management than it was for women on boards. So for the S&P 500, we're looking at a median of 29.5% and an average of 31%. And in the Russell 3000, rather, we're looking at a median of 30% and an average of 32.1%. Now, interestingly, the Russell 3000 is ahead of the S&P 500 in women in management, which is not quite sure how that happened, but it happened. Smaller companies are better in this respect and less good at hiring directors, I guess. So over time, again, a very, very slow increase in women in management, much slower than women on boards, which has been the focus of more shareholder action, I think, than women in management. So we're looking at a mean in 2021 of 31.6, which is barely increased by, well, less than a percentage point by 2023 at 32.1%. That's the average. And in fact, the median has gone down from 2021, from 30.2%. It went up slightly in 2022 to 31%, and then fell back to 30%. This is for the whole Russell 3000, just looking at that time period. So what we're going to look at next week, hopefully, is statistics on women in the workforce, and specifically women in the US workforce. So this is Paul Hodgson, signing off with the S-Gage statistics of the week.
Paul. Excellent stuff from Paul Hodgson. That's it. That's all we really got. That was a fake leave last time. Now it's a real leave. That's Paul Hodgson from S-Gage, your ESG data service provider. The show's also sponsored by freefloatanalytics.com. Go there. Get some stuff. It's free. It's up. It's got a lot of data. It's Damian Rollis. I am analyst Hole Matt Muscardi. We are Free Float. Come back on Friday. I'm going to be in Portland in Damian's shed.
Oh, no.
His Unabomber-like shed. Reporting live from there. Until then, goodbye.